To order. We do have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In front of you, you have the minutes from February the 26th of 2024. Please take a moment to review those, see if you have any additions and or deletions. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion's been made,
Second.
properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes carry. At this time, for the open meetings part, which is a new rule delegated from the Tennessee Assembly, is there anyone here that wishes to speak to the board for any subject matter related to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. At this time, we'll have the Historic Zoning Commission and Common Review Board cases. Brett will go over them. We will ask questions for the staff, and then at that time, we'll have a public hearing, and if you're for or against, you will get 3 minutes to speak. And when you come to the microphone, please state your name and your address. And I'll go over that again after Brett.
Thank you. First case is actually a holdover from the November 20th, 2023 meeting. It's case number MSCD 41-2023, the application of Immaculate Conception Catholic Church with the agent of Jonathan Clark. Reason for the request is for installation of a masonry monument sign with a programmable digital LED screen. This site signage will require a variance from the adopted guidelines for property located at 1901 Madison Street. This is a picture just looking into the site of where the proposed signage will go. One more turn looking at the school that is on the site. The proposed sign will go where the picture on your screen, the previous sign was. These are the elevations that were submitted with this sign package. The base is modular brick, does have a cast stone cap. The screen is a 3-foot 6-inch programmable LED screen. And the top portion is a static internally illuminated cabinet sign. And then we have a rendering of what that sign will look like. Staff comments. Before I go over these staff comments, this case was deferred, as I mentioned, from November of 2023. It was voted on by the board at that time to look at studying the use of LED and digital display signage to recommend to the Planning Commission. It was sent to the Planning Commission in December. The Planning Commission at that time deferred the case 1 month and had the staff study what other cities around the mid-state were doing. The staff looked at 5 other cities, and 4 of them outright prohibit digital display signage. 1 prohibits it, but has an allowance for a static image to rotate on the set timer. At the January meeting of the Planning Commission voted to establish a committee to look at studying these signs, and I'll defer to Mr. Tyndall. We have had a hard time getting that committee formed.
So Brent's correct. The Planning Commission did take it under advisement. Their desire, though, is not just to look at Madison Street, but the city as a whole. If we do come up with an LED reader board ordinance or changes to the signage ordinance, that it be applied citywide and not just to Madison Street. We reached out to some local sign companies. No one builds these things locally. They all buy them anymore from other companies. So just about a week and a half ago, what was the name of that company? Blazing Fire or something like that. Right. Signs, which provides its signs to like Harrison and Fast Signs and others and Vaughn Signs. Called and said he'd wanted to talk to Brent and I. We've reached back out. We've not been able to meet back up. Another company we talked to, Bozeman Signs out of Nashville, says they follow the night skies ordinance, which is something I think the city as a whole could adopt everywhere, not just for signage, but for all kinds of lighting, considering our proximity to Fort Campbell and being good patriots that way. But we haven't dug into it much, but it talks about how things dim at night, especially in nighttime and bad weather. That was one of our planning commissioners said they're very blinding when you're driving at times, especially in the wet weather. And then I watched one yesterday as I was sitting at a stoplight. It changed about every 3 seconds. I kept counting 1, 2, 3, flip 1, 2, 3, next image, next image, next image. A lot of towns, if they do have these, have more of a 10 or 15 second delay on how fast they can flip through the types of images. We have none of these regulations, whether it's for Madison Street or citywide. It would become really just down to a nuisance at that point. If it was something was so outrageous that it was causing a nuisance, we could probably step in as a code department. But bottom line to say, we haven't formalized anything, but the Planning Commission does have it out for study and consideration of an ordinance, so it's in their hands. At this point, we're not prepared to move on this individual application. You got anything else to add, Brent?
I would just say that essentially nothing has changed since this came before you in November. I did reach out to the applicant and the church, asking, if they wanted to continue to defer the case. And Mr. Clark can speak on it, but I think they just wanted to be heard. So with that being said, the staff comments, signage shall be designed primarily for the purpose of identifying a business rather than serving as advertising. Animated, flashing, chasing, running, or sequential signs are not permitted. LED signs are prohibited. And this sign would also exceed size requirements, as monument signs cannot exceed 30 square foot in area. This sign is 41.25 square foot. And monument signs may not be more than 5 foot in height, and this proposal is 8 foot 4 inches above the finished grade. Further, the staff recommends disapproval. The ordinance, Madison Street guidelines do give an allowance for schools, churches, and institutions to have marquee type signs. And finally, Mr. Kirk Zeman, Common Design Review Board member, could not be here today, but when I sent the materials out on Friday, he did send an email strongly encouraging the board to stay within the existing guidelines. And I will answer any questions of the staff if there are any.
Is there any questions for Brett or the staff?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you. I see that this sign is above what is required, and I see that it is even wider than what is required. So, and I know that we haven't gotten anything together, as you said, Mr. Tindall, y'all still working on it. So, I would propose that we postpone this until we get something in writing that would probably fit this size, or I don't know what y'all would decide to do, but I think we need to postpone it until, we get something in writing because if we change this for one organization, then there are gonna be many more that come forward and say, hey, you did it for this organization, then let's do it for this one. So I think we need to put something in place and make it concrete, a concrete statement or something to say that, we have to abide by. Thank you.
Any other questions? David?
I just think we're better off waiting for Mr. Tyndall and his people to come up with this, if it has to go to the city council about an ordinance for the city for signage.
It would.
That's probably the best case scenario, because with Fort Campbell, and this really doesn't play into it, but as Ms. Smith said, you do this on Madison Street, every business on Madison Street is going to want them. And, as Mr. Tyndall said, every 3 seconds that sign's changing. And it's distracting. And also, if it's, let's say it's running every 3 seconds, and we've told them it can't go every 10 seconds, it has to be at least every 10 seconds. Do we have recourse to, or would that be a codes issue that would have to go? So I think that needs to be spelled out.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will open the public hearing for case number MSCD 41, 2023. Anyone wish to speak in favor of it, please come forward and state your name and your address, please. You'll have 3 minutes.
My name's John Clark, local architect. Most of you know me, some of you don't. I'm just here to and I totally agree with Ms. Smith and Mr. Smith. I get it. I was here the last time. I just wanted to make sure that we were gonna keep this thing alive or we were gonna get killed, okay? That's it. I'm fully there. I'm just here to support the church. It's what they wanted. They may drop back and punt and just do a static monument sign based upon the existing brick and cast stone monument sign that's already there. Nobody is here from them. I didn't expect them to be. I just wanted to follow up because I knew back from last November that this was in play. So I didn't want to not show up. And I understand the Madison Street corridor requirements. I understand what's there. Do drive down Madison Street though. There's a few that have kind of popped up that might need a little bit of enforcement. Maybe a bank or something, maybe. Somebody might want to reach out and say hi, because that was illegally. And I'd hate to see something going illegally that we're trying to do legally. But again, I know it's going to be up to the ultimate city council making a decision on that and move on down the road. So I'm done with my spiel unless you guys have any questions for me.
Would you like to share the bank name?
United Community down there.
Oh, I got you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for you,
Yes.
the speaker. If we were to have about 4 more months, I think we could have something through maybe a first reading at city council. Would the church be
Yeah.
willing to wait to see what that says?
I believe so. I mean, this is largely a donation project by a certain benefactor that is very intrinsically involved with that church. She wanted it. And, regardless of size, we can always scale it down a little bit to come within the
That was
requirements.
gonna be my follow-up question was, the LED is one thing, but it's also exceeds the signage
No
size
problem.
is
We
pretty
can bring it
big.
down.
Yeah, I don't see that changing as much as just the allowance for it.
Right.
So,
It would
okay.
be scaled down, and it would be something that, it would not be something that is flashing, okay? I want to make that clear. So,
Yeah, I feel like we've cleared up, we had a couple other ordinances that were backlogged,
Yeah.
and we're clearing that up this month, so we should be able to get moving on it this coming month, and
sounds great.
probably have a way forward.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Any
Thank you.
questions for Mr. Clark? Thank you. None? Okay,
All right.
thank you.
I have one more comment for Mr. Tyndall, if that's okay.
Sure, well, you want to wait till we get through the public hearing, or?
Oh,
is it
okay,
really
well,
today?
I thought we were done with that.
Okay,
I'm good.
cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else wish to speak in favor of MSCD 4123? Anyone wish to speak against MSCD 4123, 2023? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
I just, in the review of the allowing LEDs kind of to replace the marquees, again, and I understand if we do something, everybody would want one, but we were still looking at this for the limited scope of the schools, churches, or institutions.
When we start singling out individual uses, it gets a little tricky, especially once you start tying the First Amendment to it. Then you're basically saying that the message the church has or the school has is more important First Amendment wise than another business. So we feel it's an all or nothing.
Okay.
It's all LEDs or not. I do think regardless of if we lift it on Madison Street, it may be beneficial citywide to have some more regulations, because I do think they are popping up more and more often, not just in Madison Street, but everywhere, and are quite distracting, especially areas that we've seen a large uptick in accidents, Wilma Rudolph, Fort Campbell, and other places as
Sure.
well.
So would they modify the Madison Street guidelines as well? Or
We
just-
would, I think when we're done with our study, we'd have to consider what we want to do at that point.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to defer?
Motion's been made to defer.
Second.
Do we have a time, is it just
Yeah.
month to month, or
Would
do we
you-
want to do a 4-month or
Let's
3
wait for
month?
4 months. Let's
4
make
months.
it
How
4
about till,
months.
Can we say until it's taken up by
Until-
the
Correct, until the planning commission has got the
brought it
guidelines.
Then
before the
let's-
city council.
Then we can, I think we can table it till that point instead of defer it.
Well, if you
Okay.
table it, it's done at the end of this meeting.
I think so.
Yes,
Yeah, you
absolutely.
have
to
So you
defer
gotta
it.
postpone or
We-
defer.
Let's see, we'll defer it till the staff puts it back on the agenda.
Okay,
Okay.
I agree.
That's a nice thing.
Indeterminate.
Indeterminate, right?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. All right, case number MSCD 8-2024.
All right, first new case, as Chairman Gannon said, MSCD 8/2024, it's the application of David Wiles Construction with the agent of Erica Ramos. Reason for the request is 3 sets of apartments located at Long Shadow Trail. In 2021, we were approved with you for our other 2 units listed below. We're building the new 3 buildings to be the exact same layout and color scheme as the previous 2 buildings in the same subdivision. This property is located or known as Lot 11 of Meadow Hill subdivision. This property does fall in the highway sub-district of the corridor. So essentially that all setbacks just revert to the base zoning. As always, big thanks to David Smith for the images you will see today. The first one is looking into the site. The site is in the foreground. This area here will have 2 6-plexes and a 5-plex, or 6-unit buildings and a 5-unit building, going across the front. Zoomed out a little more, showing Long Shadow Trail at the bottom of the picture in Meadow Hill Lane, to where it cul-de-sacs in the rear. Again, the site we're looking at today is this area right in here. Just continuing to go around the site with Long Shadow Trail, now on the right of the screen. Then one from the back. It is a large drainage area back there, and the site significantly drops off, really starting at the road. So the applicants will use a retaining wall. Just continuing to go around the site. We'll point out in this photo, as mentioned in the reason for the request, the other 2 buildings, and I know they're hard to see here, are these 2 right here that were approved. These buildings will match those 2 buildings. One more just looking straight down on the site, leading into the site plan. Again, just showing those 2 6-unit buildings, 1 5-unit building. Nothing really to point out on the site plan. Then the rendering submitted, it is an all brick side and rear, brick on the first floor of the building, and then the second story on the front is a combination of Hardy lap siding and Hardy board and batten, colors naval and alabaster. And then staff comments, site plan approvals needed, and landscape plan approval is needed, and those are both going through the planning commission, our office right now, so. And I will answer any questions of the staff if there are any.
Any questions for Brett and staff?
I'm new back on this. Explain to me again the sub-district, because I was a little confused on
So each sub-district.
how this is Madison Street.
Yeah, well, and that's, I'll go back. So essentially, to go back from the beginning, I guess, when the corridor was created, essentially what happened is they took every parcel that touched Madison Street, and at the time, this was 1 parcel.
Mhm.
So now it's been subdivided out. We probably take the frontage lots and that's it. But so that's how this parcel is before you today. Secondly, as far as the sub-districts, the sign, for instance, before you was in the Beach Haven Barksdale sub-district. So each sub-district has different glazing requirements, setback requirements, with the exception of the highway, residential, and historic. And all those just revert back to base zoning, so.
Is there, if we approve this, is there a staff level review that you can do on, you know, if if we're good with this building as it is and they want to do two more, do they have to come back and do this process again? Or it's like, we've looked at this, this is okay, do we have to do the whole thing?
It's a great question, and it's one that I kicked around in my head for a couple days and emailing with the applicants. My take on it was, if the board's exactly the same, I think I could do it at staff level. 2021, we've had some changes, so that was kind of how I viewed it, so.
Brent, correct me if I'm wrong, though. Is this not the last parcel, or maybe the second to last parcel to build out the multifamily part of this project?
There's not many.
'Cause we've already approved that one.
The one right here on your screen is being graded now. That one has not been through. And
Oh,
then
has
this,
not, okay.
this area here.
And is that multifamily or commercial up in that larger lot?
I'd have to look.
I mean, or is it
I-
C2 maybe?
They
Yeah.
think it's commercial.
Yeah,
I would have to double check. And we've seen at the beginning of the neighborhood, a strip center and a daycare come through this board recently, so.
Okay, I just, like I said, just trying to get reacquainted after being on for so long.
Any other questions for Brett or the staff? Seeing none, we'll move into the public hearing for MSCD 8-2024. Is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor of MSCD 8-2024? Please come forward and state your name and your address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Erica Ramos. My husband and I are the owners of David Wiles Construction. I don't really have anything to necessarily say. I just wanted to just say the buildings we're requesting to build are exactly the same buildings. We just purchased a lot ahead of time and needed to get our finances together to be able to build again. So we're just asking for the same thing, same building, color schemes, layouts, everything to just be approved again. But that's basically it, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Ramos? Yes.
Where
ma'am.
would the egress and ingress would be coming in and out of that lot where you're planning to build the buildings? Is that coming off of Madison or
Long Shadow Trail.
Long Shelter Trail?
Yeah, so it's Meadow Hill Lane off of Madison Street, and then Long Shadow is off of Meadow Hill.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I have a question. Having been to the site, that's a very extensive drop-off behind that where you plan on building it, and it is all drainage. Is a retaining wall gonna handle that? Because it doesn't look like it's deep enough to get the apartments without bringing a lot of dirt in to kind of make it, I guess, usable.
Yes, sir. So we've also gone through the engineering, all that. And then our current site where we have to just literally across the street on Meadow Hill, we also had to have a retaining wall there too. So yes.
Any other questions for Ms. Reynolds? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak in favor of MSCD 8-2024? Seeing none, anybody wish to speak opposed MSCD 8-2024? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. I will entertain a motion, or is there any other questions or discussion?
A motion to accept.
Motion's been made, properly seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. And our last case, MSCD 9-2024.
That's it, thank you. As Mr. Gannon stated, our final case today is MSCD 9-2024. It's the application of Bill Mace with no agent listed. Reason for the request is new construction at 1546 Madison Street. It's also the location. This property falls within the residential sub-district of the corridor, which, similar to the historic and the highway, there's no special requirements or setbacks. This is looking into the site. The site will be this area here, enter here, and the building will set right around in here. One more, just kind of going around the site, Madison Street to the left, Crossland Avenue is on your right. This is from the rear of the site, Crossland in the foreground and Madison Street in the background. And one more with Madison Street on the right, Crossland on the left. We'll point out, you know, while we're here, so the rear of the building will actually be facing this way, and the front will be facing toward downtown. The way the site lies and the topographic challenges of it had to orient the building that way, so the two sides will act as fronts, if you will. So one more, just looking straight down into the site, which follows or leads into the site plan. This property will access onto Madison Street and Crossland Avenue as shown. And as I mentioned, the way the building sits, the front will technically be facing toward downtown, toward the west, and the two sides will act as fronts. The elevations that were submitted. The middle elevation is the front, which, as I mentioned, will face interior to the site. The rear in the middle there, and then the application does do a good job of taking the two sides of a building and making them have a front appearance, if you will, to give a sense of place. The materials, it's a majority brick building. The front half is brick from the bottom half, and the top will be ephes. Staff comments, ephes is an appropriate material for limited accents. Site plan revision approval is needed, and that's in our office now. And landscape plan approval is still needed as well, and we haven't seen a landscape plan yet. And I will answer any questions of the staff if there are any.
Any questions for Brett and staff?
I have a question.
Yep.
Do you know, are they going to just tear down all the trees and they're gonna have to build it up?
Some, yes,
So it's gonna
will
look
be.
significantly different.
It will.
Okay, and my question is, the back side of it is facing Lowe's is over here?
That's correct.
Am I in
yeah.
the right
Yeah,
spot?
yeah.
Okay. That's gonna look really bad when all the trees are gone.
Well, I would assume, and I don't know that anybody's here to speak on it, but I would assume most of the trees in the rear will be kept. They will receive tree credits as well, so they will probably try and keep as many as they can. So hopefully that will screen the rear there, but we haven't seen the landscape plan, so.
I'm not sure. I looked at this a long time ago. Marcia, they are gonna have to grade out the site. And they are changing their driveway. They did get approval for the driveway in Madison, and it did fail rezoning to a commercial use, so it's still the office zoning. I would say, since the applicant's not here, if you're concerned about how it looks from Lowe's, we'd have to do a little more, where does the terrain fall and how much, it may be so that you can't even see the building. You have that billboard and that other mound in between, which is a TVA right-of-way, so that's not gonna be touched. I'm too bit curious of how that lays compared to the mound. A month deferral to get the applicant and provide a little more information would completely be appropriate.
I agree.
Well, is landscaping even in the purview of what we're reviewing? Isn't that the purpose of the landscape plan review?
And there are guidelines within the Madison Street corridor guidelines for landscaping. Essentially, it all reverts back to the landscaping section of the ordinance.
However, if it was a situation where that entire back of the building is exposed, you have the opportunity to ask for slightly more screening or buffering.
Correct.
Garbage cans and things like that as necessary.
And that is something we could look at as well.
Can you go back to the aerial
Yeah.
that shows the transmission line?
That red house roof stays?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a separate property.
So it's between the red house and the power lines?
Correct.
Right.
But that is a pretty good sized mound there from
So,
I was looking at
so in,
it the other
yeah,
day.
so in this photo, everything
To the right.
from, to the right of the power lines would obviously stay.
Yeah.
How about there?
You have a CDE set of power lines and a TVA set of power
Yeah,
lines.
but, so they're not grading through that, that's not on this
No,
side.
not.
So the trees there that buffer it
Yeah,
from
buffer.
the bank side would most likely, that's not in this
Probably not
property.
trees under the power lines, so
Well, but there's the ones, as we're looking at
I
this
don't know
picture, the
how
ones
many
to
of
the
those are
right.
gonna stay though.
Yeah.
Brent, could you go back to the site plan? Yeah, see, this doesn't have finished grades, but this whole thing rises, and then this keeps going up to high point and then back down. So there is some natural grade, but I don't know what.
Is that a
the
retaining wall?
foliage-
There is, yes.
Right here is a retaining wall. I don't know which way that's going either. I'd have to look closer at the plans and the notes there.
Any other questions for the staff?
We'll ask the applicant for some more information and get them here next month.
Yeah, my other question would be how many offices you plan on putting in there? And parking spaces and traffic in and out right there at that red light? Not exactly at the red light.
We can go on both
It looks
sides.
like they've built 6 possible bays. Now, obviously, they can be divided however they want internally. How many square foot is it, Brent?
I would have to double check.
6, probably 8,000 square foot or so, maybe up to 10. Office is not parked tremendously compared to commercial uses. And we even asked them, why do you have the road going around the building?
9,300.
And I said, 9,300? And I said, you don't need that road right now. I think they're planning long-term. If they do switch to commercial, you could have a drive-through window or pickup window, like a pharmacy or something like that on the property.
But can they switch over if it's not?
No, they'd have to rezone. And it failed at city council back in December or January.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing, though nobody's here, for MSCD 9-2024. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor? Please come forward. Seeing none, is there anyone here that wishes to speak against? Please come forward. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing for MSCD 9-2024. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion to postpone it because of the requirements that are still needed, that are listed here, in our papers, that, he just showed us the requirements that are still needed and we're waiting on. I just think we ought to postpone it instead of kill it,
The motion to postpone it for
1 month.
for 1 month. 1 month is good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds
Motion
good.
to postpone it to our next meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I assume you're ready to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It carries. It is postponed. Seeing nothing else for the docket, I will entertain a motion to.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's been made. There's a second. Properly
Second.
seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.